Welcome to Coffee, Culture, and the Capital with Sophia and Greg. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. On today's episode, we will be talking about a media scandal, the media not talking about one side of an issue. I'm sure that's not a shock to you all, but we're going to dive into that and Kaiser and trans surgeries and what those really are, what is happening with that entire situation, as well as we're going to get into AB 495, a bill that basically helps push with kidnapping and trafficking of children. So we're going to dive into those two heavy topics today. But Greg, before we kick off, what do you have to drink for coffee culture in the capital?
I don't have coffee today. I already had 2 cups, so I'm coming back to hint my, what is this? Blackberry. So I think water sometimes is good to drink.
Yes, there you go. Water is good to drink. I do have a coffee today. Last time I did not. I just have a coffee that I made myself. But Greg, there is an article that you put out earlier this week. I believe Christian Post reshared it. It got good traction on social media as well, because there's kind of been a media blackout on an issue we've been talking about. So what is going on, and what is going on with Kaiser and the surgeries that are being removed from there?
Right. I'm not sure many know my background, but I used to be a newspaper reporter when I lived in Colorado for a couple years, and I was also the press secretary for a member of the assembly for another 3 years. So press coverage is something that, I've been following. I used to be a press person. And when we see bias in the press, I get upset. And, many times, people criticize the press for being biased towards the liberal side, and they complain, no, we're not biased. We're just telling the truth, right? And sometimes if you don't know all the facts, you don't realize you're getting a biased version of something. But the bias on this particular topic is so overwhelmingly obvious. And I kind of got caught in the middle of it because I was being interviewed. And the reporter, ignored a bunch of what I said. Actually, my main message was ignored. And I got a little annoyed. So over the weekend, we had some great news that came out last week. Kaiser Permanente, which is a big medical provider here in California, announced they were no longer going to do what they call we call them, mutilating surgeries on minors. They call it gender-affirming care. And part of the gender-affirming care is these surgeries that they give minors who think they're trapped in the wrong body. So if a girl thinks she's a boy and is stressed about going through female puberty, they cut off her breasts in order to make her look more male. Now that is happening. But the Trump administration and federal agencies are clamping down on hospitals and providers that are doing those type of harmful long-term damage to healthy body parts. And so not only Kaiser Permanente had just announced they're no longer do these surgeries, so did Stanford Medical Center, so did Chalk Hospital, LA Children's Hospital is announced they're closing their gender clinic. And so I thought, great. And so we had a reporter call us up from CBS News in Sacramento and wanted to get our side of the decision. Like, what do we think about this, right? We think this is great. And I wanted to communicate to them that, they should be listening and interviewing the voices of the detransitioners. These are typically mostly young women who have at early ages, age 13, age 15, had their breasts removed as treatment for gender dysphoria. And now they realize what a terrible mistake it was, and they're suing organizations like Kaiser. And so I knew 2 detransitioners who've been up to the Capitol testifying against pro-trans surgeries and all these treatments, telling legislators how bad they are for years. Mm-hmm. And actually 2 weeks ago, there was a detransitioner. Her name was Layla. Jane, and she was testifying in a committee before Senator Weiner and telling him how bad this stuff was, and that she was upset that he was promoting it. So I gave all this information to the reporter. I gave information about the lawsuit that's been filed against Kaiser. I thought this is definitely a legitimate part of the story that he needs to cover. So, but when he covered the story, it ended up being all pro the Kaiser side. He interviewed a girl who had transitioned and who was very upset that she wasn't going to be able to get the life-saving care, as she called it, because of the federal administration was stopping it. There was no talk of what these surgeries are, and there was no indication of what the controversy was, really, and why 26 states have banned these treatments, why Europe, England, and Finland, and Sweden have all backed off providing these type of treatments to minors. It was just the federal administration is doing this bad thing to these poor trans kids. And that was a completely distorted view of the story. And all he wanted to know was the religious motivations for why California Family Council was against these surgeries. He just ignored all the things I said about cutting off healthy breasts and how that's a terrible way to treat kids with gender dysphoria. That didn't make the story. And so I ended up putting together a spreadsheet. There were 18 stories that were done over the weekend on this announcement. And I did analysis and found out that only one of the 18 actually interviewed a detransitioner. Only 4 mentioned that either somebody they interviewed or they mentioned in the text of the story that we are talking about surgeries that affect healthy body parts and breasts of the 18. And it was just obviously very biased towards there's a hiding going on. And so just to kind of give you an idea of how this is done, we are going to show 2 videos of, because what happened over the weekend is Kaiser nurses in San Francisco protested against their own hospital outside their Kaiser San Francisco hospital, protesting the decision that their own hospital made. And so news coverage went out there. And guess who went out there with them to offer a different perspective? Layla Jane, the detransitioner who came to testify at the Capitol a couple weeks ago, saying how her breasts were removed at age 13 and how she's now suing them for malpractice. And so let's watch how first the very biased liberal version of the story, and then we'll give you a more balanced version, which we would encourage all press to start acting like this the good version and not the bad version. So why don't we go through? This is ABC 7 covered this story. So let's watch what they said.
A call to action outside a Kaiser Permanente medical center in San Francisco after the hospital system announced it would pause gender-affirming surgeries on people younger than 19.
This action today is to communicate that the nurses union, the parents of trans kids, our patients who are trans do not agree with this decision. We won't support it and we won't be quiet about it.
Nurses, staff, and allies, including State Senator Scott Weiner, taking a stand.
We're going to fight and we're going to win, so let's do this.
We are supporting the brave medical providers that are standing up for the rights of trans kids.
Kaiser releasing a statement Friday, reading in part, "Our nurses are compassionate caregivers, and we appreciate the union raising their concern for patients seeking gender-affirming care. This is an extremely challenging and stressful time for our patients, as well as for our clinicians, whose mission is to care for them." Kaiser is one of several California healthcare providers to make this policy change amid increasing pressure from the federal government, including subpoenas from the Department of Justice.
I think this is a communication with the Department of Justice. We received your subpoenas. We are adequately intimidated, and this is our response.
The rally also met with opposition, some saying Kaiser made the right decision.
Once they can buy cigarettes, drive a car, vote, buy alcohol, sure. What you want to do when you're an adult, fine, but leave these babies alone.
Gender-affirming surgeries on children are rare, reserved for extreme cases. Kaiser will still provide other forms of gender-affirming care for children.
And it's so important to me that these kids and their families know that there are people out there that support them and feel that this decision is wrong.
Tara Campbell, ABC 7 News.
All right. Now, one thing you notice about that story, they must have interviewed 4 or 5 people with one viewpoint, right? That this is bad. And then they never mention what gender-affirming surgeries are, right? Mm-hmm. You notice they didn't mention anything about removing breasts from little girls, right? They didn't mention that. And even they gave one opposition person the right to they gave them just to act like they're being fair. They let the opposition say something, but they didn't let them say anything that mentioned that breasts are being removed, right? It was kind of a benign comment about kids shouldn't be able to make these decisions until they're older. Decisions on what? Like, what are we talking about that's so controversial? You never found out, right? Now, also at that rally was Layla Jane, who actually, get this, she actually was interviewed by the reporter at ABC 7, explaining her view. Like, that this is the hospital. They cut off my breasts at age 13. I didn't know what I was doing. They gave me 2 appointments, like 2 counseling appointments, and then they decided that's what they were going to do as treatment. Now, look, pull up the picture. See, there is Layla Jane. You see that CBS 7 there. Now, I grabbed this screenshot from another person there was taking video. So I know that they interviewed her, but they did not include her or her voice in their final story. So either the reporter didn't like what she said, or the editors back at the news station says, we can't give her voice. We can't give her a platform. Now, why? Why would you not let the story play out? If you really want to educate people about what the controversy is, you got to let both sides speak and let the public decide who has the better arguments. They don't want they don't want to give voice to the detransitioners. We have been up here forever, and we have never seen the major media, the mainstream media, interview detransitioners here in California. I can't think of one except for this next story, right? So also, you had different stations here. So this was ABC. Now we're going to look at CBS. Now look at how differently this reporter reported on the story, gave both sides a chance to advocate for their position. And it was much different. So let's give a watch.
Your flag out of my face. Girls had mastectomies at this hospital as 12-year-olds.
People on both sides of the controversy came out with signs in hand. Many demonstrated peacefully, but others clashed with each other as some tried to cover up a protester's sign.
It's okay. Just give her space. Give her space. Give her space. As long as no one's shoving, it's fine.
Layla Jane was there to tell her personal story.
I began to think I could be trans when I was 12 years old. I went to a therapist, Kaiser therapist, and told her about these feelings, and she immediately affirmed me and gave me a diagnosis of gender dysphoria.
Layla Jane says her doctors didn't do anything to treat her underlying issues. She says she suffered from childhood sexual abuse and autism.
I took Lupron and testosterone at 12 years old. A month after my 13th birthday, I had a double mastectomy at this very clinic.
Layla Jane says based on her experience, she supports Kaiser's decision to pause gender-affirming surgeries for those 19 and younger. But some of the hospital staff at this rally say this is a huge setback for trans kids.
More and more every day I put on this badge and I feel like I'm going to battle.
Sydney Simpson is a nurse at Kaiser. They say they're not just fighting for their patients, but also for themselves.
I access my gender-affirming care here at Kaiser. I have a very close relationship with my doctor and those nurses, and they are so lovely. And so this absolutely breaks my heart, not just for me, not just for my patients, but like all of those practitioners who I know for a fact have nothing to do with this decision, don't agree with this decision, and now have their hands tied behind their backs.
Simpson says Kaiser policies on gender-affirming care were based on research conducted by its own foundation. They feel there's only one way to explain this policy change and asserts that it's purely political.
There's no new research, there's no new patient outcomes, there's no need for this other than Trump administration, the Department of Justice subpoenas. This is a response to intimidation.
This is my first time attending anything like this.
Gideon Cotting says his daughter transitioned at the age of 11 and is now regretting her choice.
Every person in authority has failed them when they should have pumped the brakes, assured them and said, hey, you're good. You know, just take some time, sort it out, don't make any rash decisions.
People like Cotting feel it's important to let kids grow up first and wait on making any life-altering changes until they are adults.
You know, no child is born in the wrong body. Every child should be allowed to grow up whole and deserves.
I just want to note too on this, here we see like some Kaiser nurses speaking out and mad that these children can't get these surgeries. We see just the attendees speaking out. And I just want to put it plainly. You're either on the side that children can get their healthy body parts chopped off to fix a mental health issue that they're struggling with, or just a social contagion they're struggling with, or you're on the side that children should not have their healthy body parts cut off. It's plain and simple. Should a 11 or 12, 13-year-old girl be able to get a double mastectomy because she thinks she's a boy or not? And I feel like it's a pretty common sense answer. It's really sad. It's really unfortunate to see nurses taking the opposite stand. I have Kaiser. I go to Kaiser. It's really disturbing for me to know that doctors at the hospital that I go to think that girls and boys should be able to go through this. I mean, it's not just the breast getting cut off. Boys are going and getting their genitals cut off. That is happening. Girls are getting fake genitals made with pieces out of their arm. We're seeing scars of missing skin from children's arms to make body parts for them to fit this social contagion mental health issue that children are working towards. And so take a step back and maybe reach out to whatever doctor you go to or place you go to and see where they stand on this issue. Again, this isn't medical advice or anything, but maybe do a double take and see if the person that you have providing your medical health help is okay with this or not. It's really disturbing just to see where some people are standing. And evidently not everyone at Kaiser stands on the sides of the nurses they interviewed, but it's disturbing that any do, and they think that it's medically okay to do this.
Right. Well, and you wouldn't see, you laid out what the debate is, right? And I think the second story kind of laid that out. One side thinks it's bad to have 13-year-old have her breasts removed and seem to be rushed into it as though that was a cure for her issues with, she had sexual abuse in her past and she had autism, right? And so she had other mental health issues. And they thought so they treated a mental health issue by changing her body the way it looked. Or you have other folks who say, yeah, this is life-saving care if they didn't get, so that's the debate. But you would not know that's the debate listening to the first article, right? You would not know that was the debate listening to most of the press covering this, right? This is how bias works, right? They refuse to let the other side that they disagree with, they don't want to give them a platform. And a lot of times the argument, especially on this trans issue, is, well, if we give haters a platform, then they just have a platform. We are helping them spread their hateful message, right? That's what the press are accused of. Like many of the trans activists, that's what they accuse the press or anybody who speaks out against this, that you're just promoting hatred towards kids who are struggling, which is obviously not true. But that's how it's portrayed. And so a lot of these press folks, with that, they don't want to be labeled. They don't want to, they're sympathetic to one side over the other. And that's what, and then they let the other the voice they agree with and they're sympathetic for, they let them speak. But the other side, who might say something that might persuade you to believe a different view, well, they suppress that side. So it's not objective, right? They almost like they're helping out the public. Like, hey, we're going to decide beforehand who the good guys are and the bad guys are, and then we're going to make sure you come to the same conclusion by limiting exactly what information you receive, right? That's how you deceive people. And so, anyway, I put an article together. If you go to our website, it's titled Kaiser Hits Pause, Media Hits Mute. And you can see that, and I include my spreadsheet of all the stories and links to them all and how they're biased. So you can just see for it. I sent it out to all the press, had a lot of press look at it. So I'm hoping by pointing this out to them that they will see this and, change their ways. I mean, the good reporter was actually a CBS reporter. The reporter who interviewed me was also a CBS reporter, just in 2 different cities. So it's not impossible for a reporter to do an okay job. So it just depends on the reporter. It depends on the editors. So anyway, that's that.
And if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, that story that Greg just mentioned, you can look at the comments and see the link there. If not, visit CaliforniaFamily.org and you can see the blog there, as well as all the blogs that we talk about on the podcast's episodes. But with that, Greg, there is another bill at the California State Capitol that is basically attacking parental rights and enabling child kidnapping and trafficking in a way. And so this bill has unfortunately passed through the entire assembly floor. It passed on a 62 yes votes, 7 no votes, and 10 no vote received. And we're seeing it now move through the Senate. It's moved through 2 Senate committees. It is now has 1 more committee before it hits the Senate floor. But Greg, what is AB 495 by Assemblywoman Celeste Rodriguez?
Right. This bill kind of got past us. We were alerted to it by somebody at the Capitol. It's portrayed as something different than what it actually does. As you know, federal government is clamping down on illegal immigrants here in the country, starting to enforce, especially going after those with criminal records, picking them up all over California. So in response to that, this bill was introduced to deal with the situation as what happens if illegal immigrants are arrested and their children are left in school and they're left without anybody to take care of them. Now, we have a system to deal with that. It's called child welfare. This kind of thing is not rare. Many times when people get arrested, the foster care system gets involved and takes custody and finds a relative, finds somebody to take care of the child while the parent is incarcerated. So this is not unusual. But this particular bill, AB 495, really allows anyone to take custody of not just a child having issues with their parents disappearing because they're being incarcerated, but any parent can lose their child to someone else who simply claims they fill out something called a caregiver authorization affidavit. Now, I have one in my hand here. just so you know how this would work. So anyone could, all you have to do is fill out this caregiver authorization affidavit, and you say, have a relationship, someone, a child at school through a friend or through any other family relationship, no matter how distant. You go to the school, and what you do is all you have to do is you have to provide 4 things. You have to provide the name of the minor, the minor's birth date. You have to write your own name down, and your home address, and you hand this over to the school, and completing that and signing the affidavit is sufficient to authorization of enrollment of the minor in school, meaning you can take the minor out of that school and enroll them anywhere else, and authorization over school-related medical care. So, and this is all supposed to, allow someone that an illegal immigrant might have. They might not have any relatives. They might just have some acquaintances. Somebody like that enables them to immediately take custody of the child. But it doesn't require any background checks. It doesn't require even the parent to sign the affidavit, right? All you have to have is a mentoring relationship with the child, which is vague. And you don't have, the school is now obligated to give you the child. They don't have to ask for any ID. They don't have to do much of anything. They simply, and I'm quoting here from an attorney who I was asking about this morning, and here's what she said. She said, there's no background checks, there's no fingerprinting, there's no interviews, there's no home visits, no requirement that the parents sign the affidavit, no requirement that the parents even know that the child is being given to someone else, no requirement that anyone ask any questions, and no liability if anything goes wrong. This is from an attorney who does these type of cases. Now, if you want additional authorization to provide the child with any type of medical care, you simply have to check on here that you are a relative or non-relative extended family member. A non-relative extended family member simply means a mentoring relationship. Number 6 on here says you have to say that you contacted the parents and they have no objection, or you can check on here, I'm unable to contact the parents or other persons have legal custody of the minor at this time, and I plan to notify them. So you check that box. You have to give your date of birth. You also have to give your driver's license number. And then you sign it, and then now you have authorization to get the child any treatment they want, right? Now this doesn't, technically it's not giving you custody, but it gives you everything the custody gives you. So another parent actually has custody of you, but another person with this affidavit can waive it in front of a school. The child will come to you. You can disenroll it, put the child somewhere else. And if you sign the second half, you can get the child any treatment they want, meaning that you can get authorized, any of this trans drugs and surgeries. Now, fewer hospitals are doing them, but that's the kind of thing that it's a complete violation of parental rights. And it's super crazy scary. And so in response to this, Jack Hibbs, the senior pastor of Chino Valley, your pastor,
Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills.
Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, put out a video recently. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yes, he announced at Wednesday night service that they will be heading to the state capitol August 19th. That's Tuesday, August 19th, for a lobby training for a rally outside the state capitol and to go lobby to your California legislators. So this is extremely important to go do. It makes a difference showing up to the Capitol, making phone calls makes a difference as well. But when the legislators see that Californians have taken time out of their day to drive, bus, fly up to the state capitol, it does make a difference. It does make them recognize that we're watching and we're paying attention. And so that will be Tuesday, August 19th to, again, lobby at the state capitol, to rally at the state capitol, to cause a righteous ruckus about this bill. And so Pastor Jack, again, made that announcement Wednesday night at church. And so everyone and anyone that can attend, that can make their way, definitely head there. We'll be posting more information about it, but Real Impact on their social media and on their website, they have also posted more info and more details.
Right. And if people are like, well, I don't really believe this, you guys are exaggerating. Well, we put out an article on the 23rd of July. It's called Presto, Someone Walks Away with Your Child. And it's a explanation of AB 495. We have two attorneys on here who understand the implications of this bill, and they explain why this bill is so crazy dangerous. And folks, I know, we're constantly trying to alert you to things that are nuts and unintended consequences of these bills, but this is a big one. Pastor Jack is hoping, and I'm hoping too, that to have 5,000 people up here. If that happens, the legislature will pay attention. They will be forced to drastically change the bill or drop it altogether. I'm really confused about why this bill is even necessary, because we already have a system in place. It's called CPS. And when a child is abandoned or doesn't have anybody to care for them, they have a system for finding someone to watch them, right? And the parent themselves is involved, right? Even a parent who is in jail still has parental rights over their own child and deciding where that child goes and making medical decisions for them. Why in the world would you take all of that away, right? You'd have to have a good reason. But all you have to do is fill out an affidavit and show it to a school, and you get rights of a kid. That is just crazy.
Mm-hmm. And we have one of the attorneys that is quoted in that article. Again, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, you can look in the comments for the link to that. If not, you can head to californiafamily.org. But Nicole Pearson, an attorney, she went into the state capitol and testified against AB 495. So let's listen to her testimony.
Nicole Pearson, I'm a mother of three, a child of immigrants, and an attorney who spent her career helping immigrants and fighting human trafficking. I am also desperate to help children affected by ICE raids, but AB 495 is not it. We all know this because in 2021, the federal government faced a swell of unaccompanied minors at the border and was desperate to place them quickly. What did they do? They reduced vetting procedures, and as a result, the Department of Homeland Security has lost track of over now 600,000 unaccompanied minors. Despite this, California wants to do something similar, but even worse. With just one sheet of paper from the internet, California wants to let someone that is not related to your child remove her from school, enroll her in any other school in the state, authorize any medical treatment of her, including mental health services and drugs, without the parent's notice and knowledge or consent. This is not fear-mongering. I'm not being hyperbolic. It's stated right here in the caretaker's affidavit that I printed for you, which I pulled directly from the bill. Line 6 allows this transfer of parental rights without even having to speak to the parent. The author claims AB 495 is about giving immigrant families the agency to choose the safety plan that works, that preserves family unity. Where is the parental designation? Their signature at the bottom here is not required. She's co-opting a term, non-relative family member, from the foster care and dependency probate systems, but without any of the procedural guardrails. No background checks, no interviews, no home visits, no fingerprinting, parental involvement, or civil, criminal, or professional liability if the child is harmed. Just 100% blanket protection for any adult seeking to abuse any vulnerable child, because this does not limit it to immigrant children. This is this applies to every single child in the state. Our children deserve to be protected through proper legal channels that currently exist that have safeguards and not just shortcuts that enable exploitation. We appreciate the author's intentions, but these unintended consequences are terrifying and they're unavoidable. We have systems and agencies in place that track and ensure children are safe and return to their parents while respecting parental rights. We can and must support immigrant families with solutions that don't gamble children's lives. Please vote no on AB 495. I remain committed and offer my services to the Assemblywoman free of charge to help find solutions that work and actually achieve her goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So there you see Nicole Pearson lay it all out. And so we've been posting about AB 495 on our social media, as well as, again, you can visit californiafamily.org to read the article about it. And make sure to share this podcast episode with family and friends. And we hope to see you guys all at the state capitol on August 19th.
Right. I just want to reiterate, if you go to Real Impact is the public policy outlet of Chino Valley
Hills.
Calvary Chapel, Chino Valley.
Chino Hills.
I'm screwing it up. Chino Hills. Sorry. So if you go to realimpact.us, you will see information about the lobby day. The schedule is the rally starts at 1. Lobby training at 2, and 2:30 we go to legislators' offices. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Amazing. Well, with that, we will see you all next time.